here we go. My number 7 is a last-minute double, and it's actually a last-minute change, actually, because it was a different movie altogether, and a movie that I liked. And maybe if you ask later, we'll talk about that. But I put A Ghost Story as my number 7, and I had to add with that Coco, because to me they're sort of about the same thing. They are about death, and I know we've talked not about maybe with The Ghost Story. I know I talked at length about at a certain age artists become obsessed with death, and they make movies about that. And I had this long talk with my mom after watching Phantom Thread, even though it probably has nothing to do with that, about that very thing, that most artists become concerned with death after a certain age. But I really responded to A Ghost Story very much so. Maybe because I lost my dad a year and a half ago, but I also, if you've ever truly loved someone, I think it's a very powerful movie. And I also like just the existential aspect of the ghost. And the ghost is there the whole time. And you go back how do I say this? So there's one scene that really struck me. So Rooney Mara has lost her I guess it's a husband, right? They're married, if I'm not mistaken. Casey Affleck, another brilliant performance from, I think, Casey Affleck, and just two back-to-back Manchester by the Sea in this. And, you know, I know there's the infamous pie eating scene. I know we've talked at length about that. But there's a scene after that she's left the house. And the house means a lot. The homes do mean a lot. If you have roots and everything, I got that. And the movie makes it very clear about the importance of the home, the house. So there's another family comes to move in the house, lives in the house. And there's a scene where the ghost just starts destroying everything. They get very scared and they leave. And I got that he was protecting. It was the ghost. That ghost felt it was being very territorial, and it really struck me. I understood that perfectly. That if someone else was living in your home, even though you can't physically possess, it's no longer your house. You're dead. But I understood that, though. It really it caught me on a very emotional level, and for that scene alone, I was willing to put it in there. But it also has an emotional resonance about what we do with our lives, what we leave behind. Coco does that in a way too, but I think Coco is much more on a sentimental level. If we could visit our loved ones just one day a year, if we could do that, how wonderful that would be. And I was really, the last half hour of the movie, I'm crying my eyes out during that movie. It was just too much. I almost walked out. It was too much to bear. But I just think both of these films really did, in their own way, speaking about death, I just thought were really well done. And it's the only time this year, and then I have really been very strict about not including doubles in recent years. This year I didn't know how else to do it with this one particular choice. So
that's interesting because last year was the year of grief in the movies. We talked about that, from Manchester by the Sea to Jackie, and there are many movies about grief. And I think on that theme, A Ghost Story is the strongest movie about grief from this year, and that is my number 7 as well. And I did a full-throated defense of it a couple of weeks ago. But I will say that there's mysteries to that movie. There's this kind of indefinable, almost intangible feeling. There's this mood in the movie that at first you might think this is a little ridiculous and patience draining. And then it kind of... That's how it hit me, unfortunately. it did not seep into me until after the movie was over. And which is astonishing, because I couldn't stop thinking about it, and all of a sudden it came to mind how the movie felt right, how the movie you felt right about the sense of permanence. Like when does love have to die? Does their love die? When is it okay to let go? Even in the spirit world, is there a residue of something that remains? Does that ever really leave? When is it okay for it to leave? And I've certainly had loss in my life, but even without family members of mine dying, I mean, anyone I think who's human and who knows the concept of loss can feel this movie if they're patient with it. So I'm completely on board with A Ghost Story because it's one of those that hasn't left me.
Right.
So I'm sure I'll revisit it one day. And I just love some of the visual constructs of it. I ended up loving the sheet. Like almost a child's understanding of what a ghost is. And during the course of the movie, the movie has a real adult understanding of what a ghost might be. A ghost in like not even a literal sense. A ghost in like the ghost of the lovers that used to live in that house. And when does that go? I like a lot of the movies and what it brought up. So I'm on board. Number 7, Ghost Story for me. All right.
Number 7 for me is Sean Baker's The Florida Project.
Cool.
Which I thought was one of the most vibrant movies of the year. Visually vibrant, with that incredibly colorful palette that it has. Of course, the Florida Project, the title refers to the hotel that these largely poor denizens are living in. It's managed by Willem Dafoe, who's wonderful in it. But it's really led by the newcomer Brooklyn Prince, who leads us through her days, whiling away the hours, begging for money for ice cream at the local ice cream parlor. And I really, I loved the performance by Bria Viate as the mother, who I had sympathy for, even though I didn't necessarily agree with a lot of her her parenting decisions. But I saw that she was that she's trying and that she has a deep connection to her daughter and is willing to literally go and fight for her. I really responded to. I found the movie to be a joy, frankly, and a lot of people I think around me, like, I got the impression that people were horrified because they're letting these children run around. How irresponsible and horrible. Yes, maybe, I guess, but I'm from a generation that used to run around all the time by ourselves, so I kind of found it kind of freeing, and I really just dug all of the humor in it. I'm thinking back on this this wonderful scene in it where Willem Dafoe, after having to manage these kids that are running around and everything, having to be kind of a surrogate father to them in a lot of ways. That wonderful scene where he comes out and he's saying, okay, guys, all you guys need to move on, and the camera turns over and you see a bunch of herons walking there. He's even managing the birds that are coming by. I thought this movie had a great sense of place. Again, another movie that just transports me to another place, and gosh, I just loved it. I loved. It really moved me too. The ending of the film is. I think a lot of people are a little confused about the ending of the movie. Like, why did they go to Disneyland or whatever? Well, they're going to Disneyland to sort of wish away the. You can go. You're supposed to be able to go to the princess's castle and make a wish and have it come true. And I think they're going there to wish all the bad stuff away. in case you don't understand why it ends where it does. But it's a really, really great movie. Sean Baker is just a invigorating new voice in movies. With this and with last year's Tangerine, he's doing really, really great work, and has a real talent for dealing with non-actors, which I always find incredibly refreshing in movies.
Yeah, he does have that talent. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he really knows how to get great performances. It is something to behold. And I thought, I asked before last week, I still think William Dafoe is the front runner for the supporting actor Oscar. I really do. I don't know. I know Sam. I love Sam Rockwell. And I even would welcome Woody Harrelson into the mix too. I mean, those are all strong performances. It just seemed like William Dafoe is just there's something so gentle and the performance. It's a very humanistic performance from him. And it's just a very heartwarming performance, and especially the scene where he goes after the pedophile.
There's no effort. There's no effort to it, and like we're talking about with Keedy, there's no need to in his performance to manufacture anything to kind of propel the plot. It feels like he lives there.
Yes,
you know,
does.
And the camera's just capturing him moving an ice box or a fridge or whatever they're moving in that one scene. You know, I'll be talking about it more in a little bit. Number 6. Are we up to number 6, Jerry?
Where I'm in number 6. Even though we didn't get to talk about this, I didn't get to talk about this when it came out. I'll make this quick. I put for my number 6 Steven Spielberg's The Post. I really responded to it very strongly, and maybe that's just because I've lived in the Washington, D.C. area all my life. But I just really responded to this movie about the Pentagon Papers and about the Washington Post. And we talked about earlier about journalism and how it's under attack. And I really responded to Meryl Streep as Katharine Graham, as the owner of the Post, and the risk that she took along with Ben Bradley, wonderfully played by Tom Hanks. And this is I think Steven Spielberg's best movie since Munich, hands down. I don't get me wrong, I like War Horse, I like Bridge of Spies a lot, but this to me just felt the immediacy of this movie. Even though it's about the Pentagon Papers, it's really about today. It's very obvious. It's about what's going on right now. They rushed it into production. That's what I couldn't get over either, how fast they're able to get this movie made and released. But strong performances from everybody. And I know, Dean, it's like I understand the musical choices that you could have gone with better musical choices. I understand that. But I just felt the movie it just responds what Spielberg does so well on an emotional level. Great, and I everything about it I loved. I just really felt like, God, I wish we were living in this era again where the power of journalism. Not that we have a lot of journalists right now working and doing their best to respond to an era where we have a president where it's going to war with the press right now. So I really responded to this maybe more so than you should have, but I really just got into the whole story. Even though I knew the story, I just really got sucked into the
You know what's really
melodrama.
Striking about the movie, this will sound ridiculous, but there's a couple of spots in the movie where they're playing the actual Nixon tapes and what he says about the New York Times and the Washington Post at the time these stories are breaking. I mean, that's on the soundtrack, The Sound of Nixon. And it comes to a shot of outside the White House looking through the window into the Oval Office in what is certainly a set. And you see the hunched figure of Nixon on the phone. And you just see him and it's an actor portraying Nixon. And I swear to God, it sounds minuscule, but I could have sworn that was Nixon. I mean, just the profile looked so much like Nixon. I was like, holy shit, that could have been surveillance footage or something, but it's obviously not. I like that part. I like the movie okay. I like the movie okay. I wasn't offended by it. I wasn't as taken by it as you were. And I didn't feel, people are comparing it obviously to All the President's Men. I didn't feel like it doesn't inhabit that world like All the President's Men does. But for me, it felt like a rushed movie. I mean, it felt like we got to get we got to get this out now. We just got to remind people of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt like a movie of now, but
Right.
I don't know if it's so much a movie for later, like all the
No, I
President's
don't.
Men.
I don't think it is. I don't think it will be that. And it's funny. I know people. They probably were thinking they were making all the President's Men too, but there's just nothing really. I was talking to someone about that yesterday, and there's just nothing quite like that movie. And but I do.
It doesn't have the danger that I never felt the sense of danger in it. And I consider that to be kind of a hit against it. But I like it fine enough.
Yeah, well, there is the sense of danger. There is a sense in the terms of, Katharine Graham was at the time. We don't think of it now, but at the time, she was taking an enormous risk doing what she did.
Yeah.
They really could have lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the film comes into play with today, because there is this feeling that, my God, we have vilified the press. Not we, but we live in an era where the press is vilified on a daily basis by the commander in chief. So there are some components of the population that do believe that everything that comes out of the media is fake news. So I did respond to that. So I thought the film was very strong. No, I don't know. 5 years from now, I don't think this film will have any resonance whatsoever. All the President's Men will still be hot.
But also, it's the fact that the thing that I also responded to on a human level from her character, and I do think her character's strong, and we needed to see her. Her story is the one I appreciated most.
Yes.
Because I know all about the Pentagon Papers and all that kind of stuff, and Daniel Ellsberg. But her story of particularly the fact that not just that she can be arrested, the fact that she is so questioned because she's a woman, she's a newbie to the news business.
Right.
But this is her heritage. I mean, this is something that her family built, and that she could single-handedly ruin everything, could destroy it all.
That's what I mean, that's the thing that you respond to. It's just the risks that she took. I mean, Sally Quinn has to. Sarah Paulson, I think, is the one that could play Sally Quinn. She says, she's putting everything on the line. I mean, she's putting everything on the line with this. So there is that sense of risk there. I mean, and at the time, that was enormous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 6 for me is Brad Status. And so, Jerry, you already talked about it very ably. I would just say,
thank you.
I appreciate that the movie shows somebody who is, if a simple-minded reading of Beatrice at Dinner is like the collision between the haves and the have-nots, which is kind of a simplification of what Beatrice at Dinner is. I think Brad Status is about a have that feels like he's a have-not.
Mm-hmm.
And what I appreciated most about the movie are the moments in it when that he's questioning, what am I doing? Why am I doing this to myself? Why aren't I more appreciative of what I have? Why do I covet? Why am I jealous of my own son? But it's brave enough to show that that's a fault in him. And yet, at the same time, you see it crack through. Like, he realizes how irrational some of this is. And I think a lot of people, when they get to a certain age, they assess their lives and they can only focus on how they're failing. And they look to other people and they don't realize, well, you know what? They're failing too in their own way. And it's just like when an artist reads reviews. And everything can be glowing, but that one review that's not glowing is the one they focus on. It's something in human nature, and I love the fact that he covets he's jealous of his son, and yet you never doubt that he loves his son. He wants his son to succeed. There are all these conflicting emotions in him, and I love that the music score mirrors that. The music score at times is very grating. It's like gnawing at him. It's like this incessant kind of string that is gnawing and gnawing. It's his inner music playing in his head, and he can't get it out. And I think one of the best, if not the best, Ben Stiller performance I've ever seen. I mean, that scene at the end when he's moved by that performance on stage, that's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think of the technicality of, okay, the camera's going to stay on you. It's like that scene in Birth where Nicole Kidman, the camera just focuses on her for 3 minutes, and you have to break down. Okay, go. You know, I think it's an incredible. I'm used to seeing Ben Stiller extremely guarded. That's his persona.
Right.
And I think that moment in that movie is a revelation for him. Just in terms of he let that down. I felt the same way with DiCaprio's performance in Wolf of Wall Street, because he's a very guarded actor a lot of times.
Right.
You know, I was very taken by it. And I completely, I got him.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think he at times he's like a selfish prick, and I think there are moments in the movie when he realizes that.
Right.
And I thought that was brave and intuitive about human nature.
Mm. I think I have to revisit it. I'm going to revisit it because the first time that I watched it, it was the second movie on a 2-movie day, and I think I was maybe a little exhausted at that point. So I think I need to revisit it. I can't discount Mike White as a screenwriter. So
he's
yeah,
great. He's a great humanist filmmaker, and we need him.
Yeah,
he needs to keep making movies. Beautiful filmmaker.
Okay, number 6 for me is a movie from Romania that came out in late 2016. It's called Graduation. It's also known by the title Baccalaureate. It's about a Romanian physician who has a daughter who is visited with some trauma at school, and it ends up ruining her score on a very crucial educational test that could determine her future, really, what school she goes to and so forth. And the physician goes to extreme lengths to try and affect that score to that exam, and it's a movie about where we will go in order to protect our own, and it's a movie that you're just, wow, where is this going to go? And I love that feeling of just feeling like you're in a new kind of situation that you haven't seen in movies before.
Right.
But great lead performance by Adrian Tatiene, and the film is directed by Christian Mungiu, who did 4 weeks, 3 months, 4 weeks, and 2 days a few years ago. He's one of the great voices of Romanian film, which is a very, very surprisingly rich portion of the world in terms of cinema. Really, really surprising. But check it out. It's called Graduation, and
it's on Netflix. I think it's still on Netflix. I think that's how I watched it a couple weeks ago. So I think it's still on Netflix. So
it was released in this country in 2017.
Yes.
Okay.
It's
just
funny.
Want to make sure you're staying within the rules.
It's funny, the release dates on a lot of these movies. I have one movie that's really technically from 2015 on my top 10 list. But it takes so long for some of these movies to get through the festival circuit. They could be on the festival circuit for a year, 2 years, before they get an actual theatrical release. So this was released theatrically in February of this year in America.
That's true. You're right. That's right.
So yeah, but it's a fabulous movie. Great screenplay.
All right, Jerry, you're number 5.
My number 5 is The Disaster Artist, and I know we talked about this when it came out, and I have to say this is probably the biggest crowd pleaser I saw in the theater last year, and it really, I mean, and also I can't help but marvel how they made such a great movie about such a bad movie. It just boggles my mind how good it is, and then the movie it's based on, The Room, is so bad. But it's the marvel of the movie. But it's also just, I think it's James Franco's greatest performance since Pineapple Express, where he's really just allowed to go at it and just eat up the scenery as Tommy Wiseau. It's just a lot of fun. It's probably one of the funniest movies I saw last year. Just from the opening, as soon as he does that audition, and you're just like, or the theater class or whatever, you just know you're in new territory.
Yeah.
But the audience is in it for the whole time. The audience is breaking out in hysterics. But I do want to say this, though. I do think it's true, because up till the point of the premiere, I don't think anyone really knows what they have. And everyone, when they get to the premiere of the movie, is just laughing hysterically. Not because it's funny, just because it's so bad. I do think it sort of reinforces the thing: no one knows anything in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
But it's such a crowd pleaser of a movie. That's what I didn't expect. And I like that, being in a very energetic, very lively audience for something like that that's really into it. That's a really nice feeling. You don't get that. You can't always get that, obviously, at home. So it's really, I thought the movie was a reminder that's a good thing, one of the joys of going to the movies.
One of the most interesting things about the movie is how offset the character of Tommy Wiseau is. An incredibly sweet, giving guy, but on set he is not. He's a tyrant, and a tyrant without any kind of real direction.
No
completely unmoored. But I dug that. I understood it. I understood that he had a vision, and he wanted to get it made. He wanted to get that made. So I appreciate that aspect of it, and it is one of the great performances of the year from James Franco. I mean, he is so charming in it, and and oh God, he's hilarious in it. So I gotta say, that scene with him in the audition, trying to lose the accent and it even getting worse, it just cripples me. There's a lot of great laughs in it. I like Dave Franco in it too. I think he's good. Yeah, he's
very good.
So. A very, very good movie. Not in my top 25, but I saw a lot of movies this year that I just liked. I liked. I didn't think were masterpieces, but and that's definitely one of them, for sure.
All right, my number 5 is Blade Runner 2049.
That's a surprise.
Yeah. It surprised me. I was really into it. I really dug it. I dug the philosophical questions that were posed by it. I dug, obviously, the look and design of it. I dug it for how it was how it kept. It was in keeping with the spirit of the original, and yet at the same time, it wasn't afraid to be different and distinctive and stand on its own in several respects.
Right.
I like thinking about it. I like thinking about what this meant, or this touch. I like the fact that it's not a film noir like Ridley Scott's is. It's kind of a different creature. I mean, that one is a 40s detective noir in its look,
totally.
Just given a kind of futuristic slant. This isn't that. This feels more vast. in a lot of places, it does feel a little brighter, and it doesn't feel as populated. And I started to think about that aspect of it, and that's almost scarier. Like nobody's venturing out of their homes, and I'm sure that was an extension of, how we live today. How no one kind of, there's no interactions really with many other people, and I started to think about, is Ryan Gosling his son? Because the parts of the plot and the events of the plot say no. But what if he is? What if he's the child, and nothing coalesces a movement more than an assassinated martyr, than someone who gives his life for it. You can start your own religion there. That gives you force. And so then I'm starting to think about, well, are there any things in the movie that kind of dictated that indicated that? And I don't know. I've got to return to it again. But there's a lot of different aspects of it that I loved, and I thought it was very imaginative. And I was not offended by the musical score. I thought the musical score was very good.
Wait, who was offended by the? Wait, someone was offended by the musical score?
No, I'm saying I was not offended by the musical score. Because I was offended by the Dunkirk musical score from Hans Zimmer. So I thought, oh God, they're not.
Okay, I got you. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, I was like, they're not going to be able to. Please don't make them do Blade Runner and ruin that. But they didn't. I thought it was good.
No. You bring up something very interesting. It would have been, Ryan Gosling was his son. It would have been the first time that one of Harrison Ford's popular characters would have a good son finally. Son that you could look up to, a son that you could respect, not like an Indiana Jones, especially not as that bastard in Star Wars. So that would have been a nice touch if he was. It would have been good. His first good son in the movie.
Yes.
I responded to the movie and to most deeply to its depictions of the digital companions in it. I thought that was a new place for the series to go. I just wish that it was I don't know. I wish that it was a little trimmed out of just a little bit. I feel that the movie's a little too long. And
it is very indulgent. It's interesting, and I like that about it. I like that the scenes go on for 10 minutes. Like, they're not scenes as much as set pieces, and they linger on them for they're 10-minute stretch scenes. And the holograms at the end, the fight at the end, the Elvis holograms, so wacky. It was so imaginative. I love that.
That was the real climax of the movie to me. But unfortunately, you have that whole second climax, with the car that's sinking in the water, and I just felt like that's kind of stuff that we've kind of seen before.
The Las Vegas is awesome. The Las Vegas sequence is incredible. I like the movie. I think I wanted to love it. That was my problem with the movie. It's not that I wanted to really love the movie.
Yes.
And I didn't, but I would definitely go back and revisit it. I might even buy it on Blu-ray, to be honest with you. So I just wanted to love it, and I didn't when I saw it. So, but I have no. I mean, it's the most beautiful. I would have to say it's probably one of the most beautiful films of last year, though, hands down. It's definitely one of the most beautiful looking films.
Yeah, on a design and a photography basis, yes. My number five. My number 5 is a documentary from Daniel Rame. It's called Harold and Lillian, A Hollywood Love Story. It's technically from 2015, but again, it got a theatrical release in the U.S. only at the beginning of this year. It tells the story of Harold and Lillian Michelson, two shadow figures in the history of Hollywood who forged a personal connection in their marriage, but also ended up affecting the look and the feel of so many of our most treasured movies. And they did all of this without credit in most of their movies. Harold Michelson was a storyboard artist. Lillian was is a film research specialist, researching the details of certain periods in history, and so she's there to create kind of a sense of realism in movies like Ben-Hur or Cleopatra or things like that. But this movie was like I said earlier in the year, I just felt like this was just like uncovering buried treasure. And the way that the film is done too, with when it shows their past, when it goes into their how they met and so forth, it does so with little sort of comic renderings of almost like comic strips, and I thought that was very creative. Instead of using tired old stock footage or something like that, I thought it was much more effective, especially in a movie about a storyboard artist, to use the artistry, the kind of artistry that goes into storyboards to illustrate its own story, was, I thought, very creative, and an incredibly moving movie. The only movie of the year that made me cry with deep emotion. If you don't respond to this love story between Harold and Lillian, which really reaches over 5 or 6 decades, really, and their immense contribution to movies is just. I mean, if I were on the Academy board, I would just, if I saw this movie, I'd be like, oh, we got to give Lillian Michelson a special Oscar. I mean, come on, this is ridiculous. The effect that they had on things like The Godfather or The Graduate, or things that we hold very dear to our hearts. I was blown away by it. This is a kind of documentary that that lets you in on a part of the world that had been hidden from us. It's very much
that you thought you knew.
Yeah, that you thought you knew. Or I put it in the same category as something like Searching for Sugar Man. That was just like, wow, how could I have gone through all of my decades and not known anything about Sisto Rodriguez? I feel the same way about Harold and Lillian. It's that level of extraordinary. If you've seen Searching for Sugar Man, you know what I'm talking about. So I highly recommend everybody go and check this movie out. It will really, really blow your mind.
Especially our audience. If you really love movies, don't ignore this movie. Don't let it pass you by, because it's delectable if you're a movie lover, especially. And I think by and large our audience appreciates the film history. I was at a record store the other night. I was listening to this college couple talking about the different artists they were passing, and the guy was like, Madonna, and the girl said, I've never heard her, but I know she's an icon. And I'm thinking to myself, there's somebody alive that doesn't know who Madonna is?
Yeah. Yeah, you'd be amazed, dude. You'd be amazed.
What world am I living in?
Yeah, I know, but
you're number 4.
My number 4?
Yeah.
My number 4 is, I saw it twice in the theater, because the first time I dozed off because I was very tired, and I had to go back and see it again, and that's I, Tonya. And I really responded to this movie because it does something I I never thought I'd even see a movie. It makes Tanya Harding sympathetic. And I think it's earned through Margot Robbie's performance, but it manages to make you forget all about Nancy Kerrigan. But that's not why I liked it. I think there's a string of great performances in it. It's the movie gets at something really uglier and deeper about America. And this is a little bit before O.J., if I'm not mistaken. This is a year before the O.J. story become as part of our... The last 25, 30 years of American history is really essentially tabloid history. It is not anything else. It's all tabloid history. And this movie, there's a line in the movie that I think sums up the movie, that sums up there's everything. When our favorite actor, Bobby Cannavale, is the guy from Hard Copy. I believe he's in Hard Copy, if I'm not the editor of Hard Copy, and he says this is a throwaway line, but he says, "Hey, yeah, we're just a tabloid news. We're what you all would become." Basically, is what he says, and I don't think I've heard anything more accurate than that. Everything has become so tabloid, so reality television, and everything, and here we are, sort of at the forefront of that era. I mean, it happened before. You could turn up there, Maury Povich, Jerry Springer. That's all going on as this is going on. But, I mean, it just encapsulates that so perfectly. But, given the performances of the movie, what chance did, in the world of the movie, what chance did Tanya Harding have? She's getting, her mother is just the epitome of abuse, mental abuse. And then Jeff Gillooly, as played by Sebastian Stan, who I think is really carving a second career as, for lack of a better word, as white trash, between this and Logan Lucky, he's physically abusive to her. So what chance did she have? And I won't lie to you, when at the end, and what she knew, what she didn't know, that scene in the courtroom where she's told she'll never be able to skate again, be allowed anywhere near skates and ice rink again, and she says that's all she knows. You really believe it, and you feel for her. You actually do feel for her. Don't get me wrong, there's something, Tanya Harding before this movie I would never even thought these things about, because I did not find her, but through this movie, you're just like, that scene, you're just like, whoa, she has nothing. She really has nothing.
It is interesting. It is interesting that there are two camps in this movie. There's your camp, Jerry, and you're definitely not alone. And there's the camp that Dean and I are in, and we're not alone either. And so we can point out what we found missing in the movie, and the people on the other side thought that that's what they liked most about the movie, that they actually found it. That it, So I can say I thought it was kind of one-dimensional characterizations of various characters, the white trash characters. But the counter-argument is, no, it's not that at all. It's much deeper. And so it makes me feel like going back and watching it, because maybe I missed something. But I think one of the main criticisms you actually pointed out, it makes you forget all about Nancy Kerrigan. And I think a lot of people find that distasteful. That the victim, but Tanya Harding herself is a victim of her life. Mm-hmm. I just think the movie wants to play it both ways. I think the movie wants to make fun of them and have you sympathize with them at the same time.
I agree.
I think I want to say I really wanted to go in thinking that, but especially watching it a second time though, I didn't get the making fun so much. I think in some ways Logan Lucky does that more in many ways than this movie. But I had to watch it again regardless. I had to go in and watch it. I wanted to watch it again. Because I felt like I said, I was very tired the first time I watched it. That's also true of another movie that I need to go back and revisit too. But I understand. I can totally understand what both of you would reach that conclusion. It's definitely a valid criticism. I mean, the thing about I'm still on the fence. What do I think about it? Basically, Kerrigan is almost like a throwaway character in the movie, and she's the central part of the movie, really, and she's her side of the story isn't there at all. It just makes her a sympathetic character, not an empathetic character, but a sympathetic character, which I find extraordinary.
Well,
I
think the strength of a movie is empathy, and not necessarily sympathy, because sympathy is surface, but empathy is okay. I understand.
Right.
Sympathy is, I feel so sorry for you.
Well, I think it gets to that towards the end. I felt that way.
I'll watch it again. I'll give it another chance. I mean, I do, because I respect your position on it. I respect Aaron's position on it. He was defending it. Then again, Aaron likes everything. So yeah, I'll give it another shot.
I'm not going to give it another shot. I just felt like it was too radically unpleasant for me. Just the entire.
That's understandable, Dean. That's understandable, Dean. I completely relate to that. I can understand that.
A completely scuzzy feeling, a feeling of dirt and grime covered me, which. When it was over, which I guess is a positive thing. The movie is evocative, but I was just I just wanted out of there. It's just like I've had enough already.
It's like Glass House on the Left.
Yeah, exactly. Also, another movie I don't like.
All right, so my number 4, we're going to go over. It's unavoidable because we can't talk about 12 movies in the next 11 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. My number 4 is Brawl on Cell Block 99.
Yeah, Brawl in Cell Block 99. Yes, that's a great movie.
And for me, this director, S. Craig Zoller, is one of the most exciting new talents we have. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you go on Bone Tomahawk in this one, what he does with genre is, with Bone Tomahawk, it was a really legitimate Western. It felt like a very legitimate Western where they're sitting around the campfire and they're going to hunt some people in the woods and they're philosophizing around the campfire and all that kind of stuff, and then it becomes a full-fledged horror movie. And he does the same thing here. And so in this one, he goes from a gritty kind of 70s crime movie that's kind of pedestrian. It really takes his time building this, and you think, okay, it's a guy that he's obviously a criminal, falling on hard times. He wanted to do better, but and he doesn't want to see his woman again. There's that big scene where you can't come see me, you can't bring the baby to see me. I got to do my time, and it plays. You know where it's going, and then almost imperceptibly, it becomes a balls-out exploitation movie. And if you have to pinpoint the point where that happens, I love it that point is when Udo Kier comes on screen. Because that's just perfect. And when he comes into the prison and tells him what he has to do to save his wife's life.
Right.
So I thought it was a delicious movie. Just such a so alive and vivid, and somebody you could feel their filmmaking fever. You could feel how much fun they're having. Mm-hmm. And the best Vince Vaughn performance. Like I said when we first watched it, that it finally uses his sides in a very meaningful way. It makes that count. So it's a revelation for him as well. It's just a great genre movie. Inventive.
This is the other movie that I need to watch again because I was very tired when I watched this. I did not, so I've been meaning to watch it again because I did like what I saw. I just can't. When you guys were talking about it, I realized, oh shit, I dozed off during this. Oh fuck, there's some, and not because it's a bad movie. I just watched it very late on demand at night, and that was a mistake. I should not have done that. I've been meaning to go back, guys. And I almost bought it on Blu-ray this weekend. That's how much I want to see it again.
I rewatched it again a couple of nights ago, and I was like, God, this is a fun movie. I mean, it is so...
Yeah.
It
is
boy.
fun. Yeah, definitely. What I remember, yes.
It is. I mean, it is a brutal movie, but it's got so much heart to it. The lead character is incredibly complex, I think. More complex than a movie any other movie with a character of this type would probably be. He's funny, but he does not mess around.
You feel for him, though.
You
feel for the character. You do feel for him.
You do, and when he has to get brutal, you're 100%. And
he doesn't hesitate.
He does not hesitate at all. And
there's such humor in the movie. There is a great. See, I was last week when I watched it for a second time. I was with my friend Rick and a mutual friend of ours. We're all hanging out at his house. We're trying to decide what to watch, and he said, "I got Brawl on Cell Block 699 on Blu-ray," and I said, "We got to watch that." And he was hesitant because both of them were thinking, "Oh, Jamie's going to show us this artsy shit." And all we want to do is watch bad movies. So it started, and the first 45 minutes really takes its time before the exploitation part of it kicks in. Well, once that kicked in, they were like, "Holy shit, this movie is insane!" And it really is. There are moments of great humor in the movie, like when at the end, when the surgeon is ready to cut the fetus and all that kind of stuff, and Udo Kier says, "Okay, we got to call it off." And it holds on that shot, and the surgeon looks so crestfallen. He was looking forward.
Oh,
God.
So
it's
good
such
to
a
do
fun,
my deal.
Funny, offensive movie. It's so great.
It is. It really is, and it's directed so beautifully. The look of it, the color of it is, and then when it goes down into the bowels of the prison, its ability to show you the horror of that world with the glass on the floor of that particular room he's forced to be in, or the shit-filled toilet. You can really. It's a movie that evokes a sense of smell. Even.
And by the way, I love that Don Johnson's in that movie. And
Don Johnson's fantastic in it.
It's one of the joys of the movie. Don Johnson comes on screen, you're like, "Holy shit, he's in this?" And it just ups the game. You're like, "Oh God, this is great." Just by seeing him make his appearance. It's I can't recommend it enough. Like the most fun I've had at the movies.
Yeah. I wish I could have seen it with an audience, because it would have been a great movie to see with an audience.
I agree.
It deserves to be like a major midnight movie, I think that it's really flown under the radar for a lot of people. I don't see a lot of people who I think would be embracing this movie wholeheartedly. Doing so, it feels like people haven't seen it.
Even the music. I mean, the 70s crime stuff. You have the original R&B stuff that color the beginning of the movie, and then once it gets in the prison environment, you get the weird kind of grindhouse music, like the wah 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 wah. The kind of off-putting, kind of weird synthesized stuff. Everything feels authentic to the genres in which it plays.
Yes.
But it plays with those genres, I think, in a really exciting way.
Well, it adds heart to it. That's the thing. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so
number 4.
Number 4 is a movie that I just saw, so I'm still kind of processing it. But I do have to say that it is a movie, again, like many of the movies in my top 10, that really put me into another place and time. And it's Paul Thomas Anderson's Phantom Thread. Wow. I mean, I'm still getting over it, really. But what an incredibly beautiful movie. First of all, okay, it's the first Paul Thomas Anderson movie that's okay to take your parents to. So that's kind of interesting. Really, seriously, because I mean he's a pretty racy filmmaker, and this is a much more elegant than any of his other previous movies, which is really saying a lot if you ask me. But God, every single thing in it was just gorgeous. Every car, every house, every piece of clothing, every plate of food in it. It was just so gorgeous. I mean, and I'm still processing, what the movie means. Really, I mean, like, I don't want to give anything away to people.
On a lot of different levels, and I'm still processing a week after watching it too. I wanted to put this very badly in my top 10. I really want. I just want to watch it because it is a Paul Thomas Anderson film. It needs to be watched again. It really needs to be watched again because there's so much going on in it. And, but I have no problem with the film. I got to be honest with you, I just didn't know where to put it, and I'm still thinking about it. It also, yes, beautiful, and one of the best soundtracks of the year too. I mean,
oh my God, the score, that Johnny Greenwood score. If people were enthusiastic about Johnny Greenwood's work before this, when you hear this score, it is absolutely the most magnificent score of the year. It is jazzy. It feels like a classical piece that's running all the way through it. Unbelievable piano work. It's 1,000 times more melodic than anything that had been in previous Paul Thomas Anderson movies.
Very much so. It's not made up of like dissident tones and stuff like a lot of his previous PTAs. This one is very like the movie itself. It's very contained, very elegant, with an undercurrent of menace. And he's not making any he is going to have Academy. He's going to have the Academy consideration because this movie has like an hour and 40 minutes of his music in it. I mean, it's not made up of any other sources. I mean, it runs through the movie. It's incredible.
I mean, you got to love a score that doesn't wear out its welcome. I mean, even though it is basically a wall-to-wall score, it takes a little bit of a break in the last third, but it's you want more of it. But everything about it, I mean, is so well studied. Every I was fascinated with just the close-ups of things. The pins going into the fabric and the scene where she's cooking up mushrooms in an omelet for him. And the care with which that was photographed, so many little details in this cloistered world that Daniel Day-Lewis has set up for himself, and also an amazing performance from not just from him but also Leslie Manville, who I could not even recognize her. I mean, she's right there in your face. That's Leslie Manville. I can't believe it. Absolutely.
Well, and is it Crepes or Crips or what is it? Is it Crepes?
Crepes. Yeah. I think, I don't know, but she's great.
She holds her own. Let's keep saying it until we get it right. I think she goes toe to toe with Day-Lewis. She is with him note for note. I think she is extraordinary in this movie.
Yeah,
I think it's such a beautiful performance. Really, in so many ways, I think it's like one of the performances of the year is hers, and that's not discounting Daniel Day-Lewis, who is you could study him forever. You could study his reactions and the way he looks up with his eyes in suspicion or annoyance. I'm going to be talking about it a little bit.